Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is May the 21st, 2021. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. I'm offended by selling, buying over crying, be a unique beast, fitting in is overrated. We're one day closer to an all-time high to $1 trillion market cap, but you got to be patient here. People, don't FOMO on alts. Yeah. All right. We got some unique beast guests. We're doing the format a little bit differently this week. All right. We got Michael Shapiro in here, and we got Phil Gibson. We're going to have some other people drop in and out of the show, perhaps. You never know who's going to pop in here. I do thank the people that have helped me with the administrative aspects of the show, that have made it a little bit easier to set things up today. So, last week we were worried we weren't going to have another show for a while. Well, some people stepped up. I figured out some things. It's a more fast-paced and unpredictable format. But I do have some sad news to start with today. Some really, really unfortunate news for people who are familiar with the show, who watched it through the years, for the people that are in the chat, for people just in the Bitcoin community. There is a guy, Daniel, out of Mexico, just learned Bitcoin.com, 21 million. He had many names, and he was a young guy, and he got sick. And I know he'd been sick for a while. I don't know the exacts, but last night I found out that he passed away. And this show is dedicated to Daniel, one of the nicest guys in the Bitcoin space, who was really keeping it real down there in Mexico, and was a unique beast. And I know people on other shows they're not going to be talking about this. Maybe on a few other shows that knew him. He was an insider, to say the least. He didn't try to get famous or anything like that, so you're not going to read about it anywhere. But to me, you should be reading about it everywhere, because it's really tragic that a young Bitcoiner can leave us so soon. And it just, I just want to remind everyone, you don't know when it's going to end. You got to make the most of every day that's out there. And just keep it positive. He was a very positive people. He tried to teach people Bitcoin, and he will be missed. If you don't know who he is, I linked to his Twitter's linked to below. You can see who he was. You can link to 2 videos that when he was on this very show in the past. So again, I dedicate this show to him. I know it's sad news, and I don't like to start out on a sad note like that, but that's life. Sometimes we do have to deal with sad stuff like that. And Daniel, just learned Bitcoin. You were awesome. You won't be forgotten around this part of the Bitcoin world. So we're going to transition now into, other news that isn't exactly happy news here either. But before the show started, all of a sudden, we got the mainstream media is covering China FUD again. It seems that the mainstream media has been quite interested in China FUD this week. And it seems like we're living in a world of newbies to me. I've gone through China FUD so many times in my life now. And usually there's some scary announcement out of China, and then it kind of goes down the tube. It's not as scary anymore, and people misinterpreted it, and it wasn't that big. So now we got news out of China. It just broke that they're cracking down on mining. Maybe that's what they're doing. It's some big financial report. Remember, it's a centrally planned economy. They try to plan affect every aspect of their economy. Okay, so they have a huge report saying how they're going to try to poke here and prod here and close this and close that, and so the price of Bitcoin goes down. All right, it never seems to end. That people fall for that, and on Twitter it's trending now. China FUD. So I think you get my take on this, people. I think I've explained it pretty clearly here that it's Bitcoin crashes 12% as China reiterates mining crackdown. I mean, they're not going around and closing down the miners now. I mean, it's kind of an exaggeration there. Now, let's say if mining was shut down in China, there's a lot of people that say Bitcoin is too centered around China. It would be a positive thing, I believe, in certain people's minds. Dude, if the mining goes away there, it'll pop up somewhere else. So enough of what I just said out there. We'll start with Phil. And I was on Phil's show recently, by the way. It's going to pop pretty soon. And that's another way, guys. If you want me on your show, put me on your show. It'll appear on this channel eventually. So, Phil, what's your take on the China FUD?
Yeah, the China FUD is tiring. And to be fair, this is kind of my first bull run to experience all of this. But I do a bunch of podcasts, binging and listening to people smarter than I as it is. But I don't really think it takes that much to really see that it's just kind of bull. I mean, Bitcoin requires you to find the cheapest energy possible to use. There's an abundant amount of energy, like a surplus of renewable energy in China. And of course, when there's a crackdown over there, miners go off the network, but that is just another incentive for everyone else in the world to get on, because the incentives of Bitcoin are so powerful. And if people actually want a green energy solution, what better way than to plug Bitcoin into any operation? Because you're going to need the cheapest amount of energy, or amount of energy possible to get the soundest money on Earth. So I think it's silly. There's other things that may have caused the price dump, whether it's Elon or people selling off for paying taxes or whatever, because it was tax day on Monday. So there's just a lot of variables and factors that could go into this. But if you're new to Bitcoin, welcome to Bitcoin. Get used to it. This is a sale. It's 50% off. Well, not so much more, because we just scooped all that up because we're good Bitcoiners that way. But yeah, welcome to Bitcoin. Get used to it. This isn't anything new. Just sit back, enjoy the ride, sit on your hands, and just stack sats, and you'll be fine.
Well, Phil, you talk about this could be caused by Elon also, and what you're still stuck in earlier this week. We're just talking about 2 hours ago. We've had double China FUD. Okay, so it's everyone falls for it. They fell for it on Wednesday. They're falling for it on Friday. Again, it's unbelievable. And CS2 sent $5. Thanks. He says it's hard to believe that people would sell their Bitcoin because a communist government says it does not like Bitcoin. Well, maybe it's because they're a fascist government. Because to call them communists is it's what they used to be, but they're fascists. They are a fascist regime over there. Now you talk about energy use. Wow, that was a great segue there, Phil, because we've got Mr. Bitcoin Energy right here, Michael Shapiro, who some of you might be familiar with on Twitter, first of all. He's pretty hardcore there, but on ClubHouse also. So, Michael, what's your take on the China FUD and the energy FUD too? I'll let you go full off on energy if you want to.
Yeah, I don't really have takes on China other than I don't care. I don't pay attention to that sort of thing. Every other week you can hear some country is doing something, and China, I guess, gets more people to react since they're larger. But the energy is interesting. I'm not really concerned about what the sentiment is. I'm not concerned that, we need to get people to understand things. I think it's an interesting opportunity for us to refine our own understanding of Bitcoin energy in the world. I think when people go off on the renewables tangent, it's sort of admitting fault in a way, which there's no need to be doing, and saying, yeah, we accept your premise, and it's not as bad as you think. That's essentially allowing them to set that framework, and I don't think that's the way we need to be framing it.
Yes, I want to point out to everyone that he's got a freaking genius article that's linked to below, okay? And so read it, try to read it, everyone. It's not the easiest article in the world. You got to be smart, and if you need reassurance about this, about the energy FUD, it is great. But I'll say this, yeah, I don't waste too much time arguing with the energy people. I reference other people's articles, but yeah, keep it simple with them. We need energy, and the world's not about to burn up here because of Bitcoin. Now, I want to go back though to the China related stuff, and well, I think both of you, Michael, you do a good job of ignoring the mainstream media. It appears, and just keeping a strong hand and not really caring. But do you think, since you've been around the space for a little while, to something that I've noticed this time with the FUD, because this has been, first of all, it's FUD Friday today, but the whole week has been filled with FUD, and just the mainstream media seems to have just a much larger interest in Bitcoin than it previously did. Did you have a take on that at all?
We're winning. It's that simple.
Okay, I think pound that like button there, people. That's a pretty good way of summing it up right there. Phil, how about you?
No press is bad press, and we're getting a lot of press, and it's coming from the FUD end, and that's great. They're talking about it. They can't get Bitcoin off the brain, and I think a lot of this may have to do with, again, agendas for green initiatives, and this is just kind of a thorn in their side of their rhetoric, and it would be who of us as Bitcoiners to actually, not take what the media tells us with a grain of salt, because if you're not inherently just trying to debunk everything that the mainstream media is throwing at you, then, how are you a Bitcoiner in the first place? It is really the most unorthodox thing that we as humans are able to witness in history, like this monetization of this asset, and it's a threat to the system directly. And so, yeah, it's like the media is gonna media, and so you should take everything that they say not to heart. Whatever they say, whatever they mean the opposite. And yeah, it's just gonna be a thing that we have to get used to. But it's kind of a shock if you're not already used to it. But
yeah,
like if you want to talk more about like the environment or something, I was just getting to the deep dives of George Carlin this past week on his what is the stand called? Can't recall. But there's a skit that he was, or a bit that he was riffing on about the environment and how like we affect it for this and that. And he's like, the environment is fine, the planet's fine, it's the people that are screwed. So I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, the Earth is gonna be fine and prosper and kill us before we kill it, if anything. And Bitcoin, again, with its incentives, pushes people to find the most energy efficient way to make this money happen. So, my cat just opened the door. Anyway, that's what I think about that.
All right. Yeah, don't put the media on a pedestal, people. But I am just pointing it out that we're getting. I think it's interesting that the mainstream media is paying quite a lot of attention to Bitcoin, and it seems like they love to cover the bad news more so than the good news. I mean, the scaring of the normies. I've gotten some interesting messages from normies who are really they think it's going to zero. And I thought that FUD, we ejected that from the system a long time ago. I do want to read Michael's article. Bitcoin is the energy minimal system for a planetary civilization, ending the climate destruction the U.S. dollar has imposed. All right. So Londer's principle and the thermodynamics of sound money and life itself. Dude, that's pretty hardcore. It is linked to below. Do you have anything to add in that preview of your article there?
Yeah, I mean, I can just sum it up. The premise is pretty straightforward. It's that the money we have is information. It's information about the state of the world and things to do. And the things that we do in the world are tied to energy. and its usage and the usage and doing work on energy in ways that are more and more efficient over time. That's what work is. It's getting more value out of energy. And when we shift the money through expansion, that is a form of deletion of that information that exists within each person. And Landauer's principle just observes that when you delete information, you increase the entropy. And from that, you can say, okay, anytime you are inflating the money supply, you are deleting information, you're actually increasing entropy because you reduce the capacity of those actors to do work and you create inefficiency. And that then becomes less of a philosophical economic argument and more of that's just physics. It's really hard to argue with. And with individual actors pursuing minimum energy in everything they do, that's the only way you can really reduce energy. So it's not about the mining, it's about the fixing everything.
Dude, best freaking guest in the space I bring you guys. Both these guys haven't been on the show before. They are linked to below. And by the way, if you guys have questions for these dudes, put them in the, do a super chat, type in BitcoinMeister, and we will answer your questions. And by the way, dudes, you don't know who else is going to show up later in the show. It's a new format. People might be popping in, popping out. I don't know what's going to go on here. All right, some other so before we get back to Elon, oh God, do we have to talk about Elon? I don't know if we have to talk about Elon.
Car guy. I think car guy is the proper term. No.
Michael
Car guy
has some pretty great opinions.
Yeah, we
Elon,
call him car guy on ClubHouse.
Okay, let's talk about ClubHouse. Now, let's keep it positive. What do you? This is huge. I mean, I'm trying to get into ClubHouse, and it's because of ClubHouse that I actually know Michael here because he popped into my one successful show over there. But what's your take on ClubHouse, Michael, and where it's bringing the Bitcoin community? Is it helpful, or is it a big echo chamber? Are newbies being convinced otherwise of because there's so many people that have been FOMO on altcoins in the last this Dogecoin thing is insane. So are you guys making a difference over there? Are you having fun? Tell us about it, Michael.
Yeah, I think we are informing a lot of people that aren't necessarily on Twitter. I mean, people have to remember Twitter's a relatively small platform. It's only about 330 million people. And most of the really high quality content is in these media formats that for the average person might be hard to navigate. And ClubHouse really gets to a lot of people. It also has its negatives. So, it's funded by A16Z. They're a big shitcoin VC firm with a lot of shitcoin portfolio companies. So one thing they were doing to get a lot of growth is they would bring on like A-list celebrities, different actors, musicians, and then they would also in these rooms bring on a shitcoiner to not even the mainstream shitcoins, but just like some random shitcoin to do their sort of educational things in these dinner party rooms where you'd get high profile VCs and actors. And so from that perspective, it's really awful. And you see these firms using every tool they have to screw over poor, uneducated people. And that part's awful. And then they're not doing that constantly. I saw that a couple times. And then it's just sort of the regular shitcoiners doing their thing. So what we have is we have Bitcoin clubs where we have a lot of regular things where if people want to go to the Bitcoin clubs, then they know it's just going to be only about Bitcoin.
All right, that's good. Very, you're doing well over there, but you were honest about the whole situation. That it's not, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. Phil, your take on ClubHouse?
It's great. So I met Michael, and we ended up meeting each other in person at the Austin Bit Devs. That was great. And ClubHouse is a great experience to work on your Bitcoin chops and your pitch when you're helping pitch to noobs. It can get tiresome answering the same questions over and over again, but it's also humbling because some people will throw you a curveball, and it makes you just kind of reevaluate just how you find where someone is on their journey and just to get in on the right angle. For a while, there was kind of like a dull in fluctuation of people that came in for a while, and that was fun to experiment because more rooms were created, and we just, as Bitcoiners, got creative with the content that we were talking about. And then lo and behold, Doge moons, and you have like a new cycle of noobs that come in, and it's it was interesting. I feel like people that were just specifically like into Doge after the SNL hype, I feel like they may be a different like caliber of people that are interested in like crypto, whatever. Just, I don't know, like younger, smarter, like college educated kids. And it's like, it seemed like it was more hopeful into getting them to the Bitcoin side. But, you know, if not, like money talks at the end of the day, so they'll do whatever and they'll probably get burned and maybe they'll come back to Bitcoin or not. But it's a great platform. It has its pros and cons, of course. One of them being that it's iOS only, and maybe they'll keep it that way for, you know, whatever business like deal they have. But other than that, like, I've met a lot of great people, a lot of opportunities have opened up, and it's just a great platform. It's like having, like, calling radio with friends across the world. So it's just another way that digital, how you know, just disruptive technology is really changing the world. Like we saw how all your grandparents are on Zoom now after the pandemic. So it's just another like manifestation of that, but it's also manifestation of the decentralization of Bitcoin, because you have so many people all across the world with different opinions and sharing ideas and just riffing off of each other. And it's a beautiful thing. Network effects, man, they work.
Dude, it's the freaking golden age of technology, and Bitcoiners are making the most of it. And I had no idea that you guys had really met in person before. But hey, I'm learning new things on the show too. That's awesome that you guys met. I didn't know that. All right. And you know, speaking about meeting, Phil, are you going to be in Miami?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Michael, I think it's harder for you. Are you going to be in Miami for the conference?
I am going to be in Miami. Yeah, I'm not a Canadian. I'm in Canada. I had to sneak across the border to get in here to begin with. So just on a bicycle, it's pretty easy. And so yeah, I'll just bike back and forth.
Oh, dude, you are awesome. You are awesome. You crossed the border illegally. Yes. Oh, pound that like button.
He may not be able to get back over the same way, so I've suggested that he get a boat or swim or possibly take air. But he's crafty.
Dude, you kind of sound a little Canadian though. You know, your accent is I mean,
I guess just blending in.
You got a different accent. I mean, I thought it was possible. It sounds like you could really be from British Columbia. I mean, it really does. All right. Okay, so it'll be great to obviously meet both of you guys in person. Miami, I actually have a link below. There is an article here, and Mayor Francis, and I'm in Miami right now. Mayor Francis Suarez wants to turn Miami into an unwoke, pro-Bitcoin tech billionaires paradise. That's from Reason Magazine, and it's a positive story. Some people in the comments section, you know, they see the word billionaire and they just like start going crazy and say that, you know, they talk about greed and evil and you know, the mayor of Miami. I'm no statist or whatever, but if you're gonna have a government, all right, he's marketing the city to tech people, to smart people. He doesn't, I mean, he's not staring away and hating on people like some of these cities in California are doing. Like in the article, it actually gives an example. In San Diego, some councilwoman said F Elon Musk, or I mean, these tech dudes, you know, love them or hate them or whatever, they brought a lot of revenue to California, a lot of innovation. And it's kind of weird that the top-down authoritarian governments of California, I mean, they have really driven up quite a few people, tech smart people out. And hey, they're coming here to Florida, and it is a blast. So it's an interesting article to read. And I think we're going to see the physical manifestation of all of this at the conference. It's going to be explosive. The happiness and the freedom that some people will be expressing because they have been limited these last few months. But My lord, Michael, you are definitely a man of freedom. You don't let the government get in your freaking way there. That you got made your way into Canada. So I'm really proud to have you on the show at this momentous point in this. I think it's a great accomplishment that you've crossed the border there. Anyway, any thoughts on Miami? Do you guys have any thoughts on Miami?
I've
never
bullish.
been to Florida or any of the East Coast at all, so it'll be fun.
All right, Michael?
Yeah, I'm definitely bullish on Miami. I remember the last time I was in Florida, it was in February, and it was already pretty humid, so we'll see how it is in June. That'll be a good stress test for everyone, see how the summer is. Overall, though, yeah, I think it'll continue despite the weather. We might see people move somewhere else temporarily for the summer. Now it's gotten to a point with remote work that people can sort of move around and still get stuff done. So people aren't going to be as tied down.
Here we go. We have a comment here. Someone says, this is typical. These people that want fancy sets and graphics. Please invest in a better microphone. Have a nice day. No. It's buy more Bitcoin. Nobody needs a freaking microphone here. I didn't become a freaking well-off person because I bought a freaking microphone. I became a well-off person because I was buying, instead of spending $200 on a freaking microphone, I was spending $200 on Bitcoin. Now, what is at $200 on one Bitcoin a piece? And now what's that Bitcoin worth? It's worth what? You tell me, you fiat freaks, $37,000 freaking dollars or something like that. Anyway, you never on shows like this. It never ends with these impulsive people who can't pay attention. They have no listening comprehension. They need fancy sets of everything has to be perfect for them. Everything has to be perfect. They're the biggest. They're freaking crybaby losers. I mean, that's all I have to say. The people that care about what it looks like, what it sounds like, it's not absolutely perfect, are the freaking biggest babies in the freaking world. And I just wanted to put it out there because I've been making these shows for so long. So if you want that kind of stuff, there are plenty of altcoin channels. It's freaking perfect. The sound is perfect. The people look perfect. The women have huge boobs, and you can, pleasure yourself looking at them and stuff. And it'll be great sound. You can hear, and then when they ask you to give them money because they're hot, and you're just a cuck about it, and you give them money, you'll be able to hear them really clearly, and just give more and more of your money, and have fun staying poor. Okay, as I don't. Anyway, I wanted to put that out there. We got $4.99 from the Bose Flynn. What do you think about the new 4chan crap today? Trying to liquidate Tom Cruise out of his Bitcoin. I don't know what that is. I'm not on 4chan. I know the other day there was some 4chan rumor about how everything was about to get manipulated. I mean, let the rumors come out there. This is the free market. Let it all come out there. And we don't need the government to tell us what's fake and what's real. Let the market decide. Apparently the market loves to sell on fake news, though. But hey, if you're one of the people who is freaked out by a fascist government making a statement that they made a million times, or have fun staying poor and buy a microphone to show up your tuchless. All right, have you guys heard about the 4chan rumor? Do you guys have any idea what that is?
Never been on 4chan.
Yeah, I think I was on 4chan a long time ago, before I really even knew what it was. I didn't understand. I remember being on 4chan in 2014 or something like that. But 4chan is a lot of people like to scapegoat them for all the problems of the world. But hey, the Bose Finn that sent $4.99. If you can elaborate on that in another comment there, it would be nice, and we can maybe give another opinion about this situation, because I really don't know what you're talking about. But there's a lot of dirt over there. I mean, a lot of stuff you shouldn't. A lot of rumors that are just complete nonsense in the world of 4chan. Anyway, it was on Reddit too. Okay, there was a lot of nonsense on Reddit also. All right, let's go back to some other thing from the world of crypto CUCKs. A lot of people love to ask me about BlockFi. Okay. And hey, Adam, I don't want to control my private key. I want to get 1% interest on my Bitcoin because I'm totally impatient. Well, the news came out this week, and I don't know if my guests have heard this news, but BlockFi, millions of dollars in Bitcoin incorrectly credited to BlockFi customers. Okay, so BlockFi is funded by all sorts of people. And I think actually some of them have actually blocked Michael on Twitter, apparently. I mean, I see the list of people that have blocked you, Michael. They're some pretty high caliber VC type people. So some of them might have given money to BlockFi in the past. I don't know. But yeah, BlockFi is well capitalized. They got all sorts of money. They got all sorts of advertising. And they made a tremendous mistake. But yet we have all these people that trust BlockFi with their Bitcoin. And after this story, and it's a story like people are like, oh, well, it's awesome. They gave people Bitcoin instead of giving them dollars. It's a really bad mistake. So, I mean, whose Bitcoin were they giving out to people? So, Michael, even if you haven't heard that story yet, what do you think about that? In terms of, are people going to learn not to keep their Bitcoin at third parties just to get a 1% return?
I heard about that, and it's definitely hilarious. But I'm not sure if people will learn. One of the screenshots I saw posted on Twitter was someone moved their coins because it's, oh, I got these free coins, I should take them off now. And they moved them into a Coinbase wallet. So, no, they're not going to learn.
That really sums it all up. I try to reach out to people on TikTok through I don't know if you guys know about Coinbeast. Everyone go to coinbeast.com. They're a Bitcoin. I do their TikToks for them. Okay, they're Bitcoin hardcore. And I told people, why are you keeping your coins on Coinbase? And people just say it's insured. If something went wrong, they would bail me out. But they don't get the unconfiscatable aspect of Bitcoin at all. I mean, if you've got your coins on Coinbase and the government says you're a terrorist, then Coinbase will give your coins to the government. Now, some people are saying, well, that's extreme, Adam. Well, how about this? You've got your coins on Coinbase or you've got it on BlockFi, okay? You're a happily married man and you're keeping your Bitcoin on BlockFi or Coinbase, maybe getting interest on BlockFi or whatever, and then you get divorced. All of a sudden, something happens. And, then the judge orders that, you give your wife half your stuff or 75% of your stuff like Hulk Hogan had to do. And, what happens? They give your freaking Bitcoin to your wife, all right? Now, if you did, or your ex-wife at that point, all right? So this is real. Any 50% of Americans get divorced, right? They get married or something. I don't know. It's a complete statistic. But it could happen to you, okay? And if you control your freaking private keys, that won't happen. I encourage every man out there. You keep yourself. You get a Bitcoin stash on the side. You don't have to tell her about everything. You don't have to tell. But there's a 50% chance that she's going to find. Well, Anyway, so enough of that. But if you do control your own private key, she can't take it from you, or he can't take it from you. Whatever your preferred pronouns are out there, or who you're marrying, men, women married. I don't know what's going on out there. Phil, you're in the music scene. What do you have to say about all this?
Well, I don't know how music relates to BlockFi, but
no, that was more so the marriage. You see a lot of different types of people getting married. I really did a long shot tie-in there. But what's your take on BlockFi? I wanted to give you're a musician. You get to promote it at the end of the show and everything too. Everybody check him out. Link to below.
Well,
yes, continue.
I'll delay the gratification with my low time preference for the shilling towards the end of the show. But
excellent.
On the BlockFi point, it's just another beautiful case of showing, hey, not your keys, not your coins. And what's really funny about this is that I'm curious how many people actually kept those Bitcoin, because it was like 700 Bitcoin was actually sent out to these people instead of like the USD Tether or whatever the hell they used. So I also heard that these people received like threatening letters, but I wonder how many of them were, going rogue and just decided to keep those Bitcoin, because it was sent to their wallet, and they could have just immediately sent them to self-custody. So, yeah, it just goes to show, like, powers that be can send as many threatening letters, or the corporation can, but at the end of the day, like, not your keys, not your coins. I don't really see any cases where the feds come knocking on your door asking for their private key. So this is just another example of why Bitcoin is so revolutionary and how empowering it is to the individual and their sovereignty of their wealth and finances. Now, I assume that the majority of people did cave because, a threatening letter is a threatening letter. You KYC'd at that institution in the first place. So, stuff could happen to you. So maybe you want to take the safe route on that. But again, not your keys, not your coins. And this also reminds me of how Robinhood basically forced the hand of all the investors or the retail into just closing their positions. And I wonder if the same effect is going to happen to the people that experience this occasion, because again, like, not your keys, not your coins, and how, like, unempowering is it for someone to make these financial decisions for you? It's like, excuse me, I thought this was my money. I thought I was in control of how I want to grow my wealth. And so I don't know how many of the Wall Street bets people that were longing GameStop actually turned into hodlers. But, since this is more like the crypto sphere of where this recent incident happened, I wonder if that will kind of just, be the cold ice bucket over their head to really realize, oh, like, I should be in charge of all this stuff. So that's my hope, is that people do wake up and realize how empowering Bitcoin is and how better off they will be if they do take self-custody. But that might be wishful thinking. But that's just kind of what this whole situation made me think of.
Hey, you're positive at least. Ben, BTC Sessions is in the house. You never know who's going to show up on this new format type of show. We got people showing. He's a Canadian. He's got to deal with, he's from the western side of Canada, not the Pacific part. But hey, Alberta, best freaking province in the freaking Canada. Go for some freedom. Albertan, Benny, Calgary.
I love
Bret
it.
Hart, take it away, baby. Sharpshooter. What do you think about this BlockFi situation?
I think this is foreshadowing what will happen as Bitcoin Trojan horses itself into traditional finance. All these guys are used to being able to make stupid mistakes like this, but then when they pile up enough, they get bailed out because the currency they're using can just be printed and they're too big to fail. BlockFi is obviously not too big to fail. If they fail, people get wrecked. But I think what this shows is even the experts, quote unquote experts, people that have been doing this for years, can make mistakes, right? And mistakes will be made with people in higher places that hold much more Bitcoin for many more people. It's just a matter of time, right? There can be hacks, there can be mistakes where it's just not due diligence and that you accidentally send out way more than you're supposed to in mistaken transactions, and how many people are going to actually return those Bitcoin after those types of mistakes. So, I mean, picture a situation where you have a Bitcoin ETF or a major bank, because NYDIG is talking about banks having Bitcoin accounts for customers and so on and so forth moving forward. Picture some major entity making a mistake like this on like an order of magnitude larger, and all of a sudden you're in a situation where there's a lot of Bitcoin missing, and you have a lot of angry customers, and it may be kind of one of those financial crisis type dominoes, but this time around, there is no lender of last resort. You might be able to bail them out in dollar terms, but those dollars may never be able to purchase back the amount of Bitcoin that were lost. So I don't know. I don't I don't know exactly how this kind of stuff plays out in the long term, but I think many people will learn the virtues of self-custody the hard way. So we shall see.
It will happen. There will be a disaster with something like BlockFi. There's going to be. It's just, I mean, we predicted this for a while, that there was going to be a larger exchange hack one day. Who knows what it's going to be? And man, will the media pick up on it? Benny, do you have any, earlier in the show we were talking about how it seems like the media really, the mainstream media is really picking up on the FUD this week. Have you noticed that? You've been around this space for a long time.
It's crazy how much is dropping at the same time. I feel like they're going to run out of ammo. They're just dropping every FUD piece in the book. We've got the energy FUD. We've got the funny
China.
thing is that the two FUD articles are antithesis of each other. Like one is China's mining with coal power and it's going to destroy the planet. And that's the reason why everybody should dump Bitcoin. And then China comes along and says they want to ban mining, which would then solve the other FUD about about the energy. So like, which is it? Which, like people that were freaking out about China and coal should now be celebrating China banning it. People that were saying China is controlling Bitcoin and that's a problem. Versus China trying to ban it for years. If you're the largest authoritarian regime on the globe and you've been unsuccessfully trying to ban Bitcoin for years, that shit is not priced in yet. That is not priced in whatsoever. I think this is the most bullish thing. And then more recently, just earlier today, I saw another FUD article about how Iran is using Bitcoin mining to evade sanctions. Absolutely. That's a feature, not a bug. Anybody can use Bitcoin. Anybody can use it. And so, with the good comes, and I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's bad that Iran is mining Bitcoin. It just means that you have a neutral base layer for value that anybody can use. Is it bad that people in countries that are less desirable than others are breathing air? It's accessible to all of us. Is it bad that they all have access to sunshine and could use solar power? Is that going to be FUD around renewables because other countries can utilize that? It's decentralized. Anybody can use it. People are going to have to wrap their heads around that. I don't know. I think all of this FUD dropping is just they're going to run out of ammo. Especially with so many eyeballs on it this time around. 2017, there maybe weren't as many people paying attention. I think there will be more this time, and it's less likely to work if everybody's already heard it. So what are you going to do?
Well, everybody's already heard it. The retail people, it's clear they haven't heard this FUD before. I mean, the panic that went on Wednesday and it's going on today, these noobs, I mean, for us, it is like so tiresome, this China FUD. It is so repetitive, but it works every time. And you do allude to something that I have talked about before, the unpatriotic FUD. The unpatriotic FUD. It is coming to it's probably coming to a Democratic senator's office near. It's amazing. It's the Democrats now that care about patriotism. I mean, it's really shocking that it's I mean, in the 90s it was the other way around, right? I mean. Everyone's got to use a tool to their advantage, get more status power. So yeah, it's unpatriotic. But yeah, I don't like Iran, but I think it's great that they can mine it. I think it is great. It shows that no one can stop them. For all the people that say the United States is going to shut down Bitcoin, if the United States could shut down Bitcoin, Iran would not be mining Bitcoin. Now it's that simple. It's that freaking simple.
Well,
so
to your point, I was going to say, if China can't shut down Bitcoin, if Bitcoin can still be used, again, in the largest authoritarian regime on the planet, what chance does a place like the US, who has quite a bit more freedom than China, stand in banning something like Bitcoin? Like, I don't see it happening, and it's being integrated into the current system as we speak, very much in a Trojan horse type sense. But they're not gonna, once this gets integrated into things that are like pension funds, what are they going to do? They're going to turn around and be like, all right, everybody holding Bitcoin that's actually storing your value over the long term, you got to get rid of that stuff. And then they're going to collapse the market because of that, because nobody can actually effectively store their value. I don't see it happening.
No. And we're going to say, this is pretty a good time to segue into, the news earlier this week that the United States government interested in all sorts of regulation. And it says if you're a company, you have to report $10,000 worth of Bitcoin sent to you. I mean, that's the way it's always worked, right? I mean, you tell the government everything. In terms of that amount of money value, you know, banks have been reporting $10,000. It's nothing new. This is nothing new. Caitlin Long's talking about how regulation is coming soon. Yeah, we know. Everybody knows. It shouldn't be a shock. But people sell. People sell on that news. My other two guests, Benny just threw a lot out there. Do you guys have anything to ask him to say about what he just said, by any chance? Anyone? If that inspired you, I thought it might have triggered some people, some of the things, the beautiful comments he said. All right. If not, we will move on to what do we got? What do we got to say here? And Benny, you're going to be in Miami, obviously, right?
Oh yeah, I am so excited for this. You have no idea. It's just like pent up.
Yes, and before the show, I was talking about the pent up energy that is going to be released by all the people there. How are you going to get back into Canada? I mean, the restrictions. It is clear there will still be restrictions in June. I mean, you're going to have to get a hotel room or something like that. What's the deal? Yeah.
So. Okay, so it depends where you are. So I'm in Alberta, which is kind of like the Texas of Canada, we'll say. But in terms of how that works, there's basically 4 major airports in Canada that are accepting international travel. One of them is my city, which is Calgary in Alberta. Now, how those fines are effectively, you're supposed to get a government mandated hotel room when you land, go there immediately, quarantine pending the result of a COVID test, at which point if you're clear, then you have to go home and then finish the rest of your 2-week quarantine. I know from a friend of mine who just flew back from the US, he landed in Calgary. They said, are you going to one of the government mandated hotels? He said, no, I'm going to go to my cabin and stay there for 2 weeks. And they said, okay. And out the door he went. And he so far has gotten no fine. Calgary Airport has not been enforcing the fines. It has to do something with, they have to go through like an extra level of government and file something with another agency, and it's a pain in the butt. Other airports, Toronto, Vancouver, I think possibly Montreal, depending, have been enforcing them upon landing if you refuse. And it's like a $3,000 fine. But that's pretty, if you end up having to stay the full length of time in the hotel. So if you get a positive COVID test and you have to stay in the government hotel for 2 weeks, then the cost is comparable to the fine. So a lot of people are just saying, give me the fine, I'm leaving. And then they just go. So I don't know what's going to happen.
I gotta say, I'm glad Calgary is the weak link, it's the strong link. There should be no rules at all. There's only 4 airports that are accepting. You can't fly into, what's another city?
You can only fly into Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal. Those are the only airports in the entire country that are accepting international flights. And same thing for flying out. I don't know when that's going to change. Again, it's funny because the cases are dropping quite quickly here right now. The death rate did not spike with the third wave here. So I don't know.
You're going to be the Canadians who actually make it down to Miami and then have to deal with this on their way back up, they're going to be enraged because there's no virus here. There's nothing here. It's nothing. It's just everything is normal. I'm in Miami now. It's totally normal. So to hear you say this, I mean, it is horrible what has become of Canada. It is just, they're living in a fantasy world up there. It is a fantasy world up there.
Florida has lower case rate.
Disgrace. Sorry.
I was going to say Florida has a lower case rate than Canada, and they're wide open. Like the number of cases that they've been getting percentage wise per 100,000 people has been lower than Canada through a lot of these restrictions. And I don't know how long Florida's been open, but I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It sucks. I don't know. I'm excited for Miami. That's my main takeaway is I can't wait to get to Miami, I suppose.
Right, so everybody that's on this show, including me, all four of us, we're going to be there. So you'll get to meet us all in person. We'll all hug each other and shake hands. It'll be, that's what people do. But I think some people have forgotten what people do. I mean, it's crazy. Okay, good. I like that. A little bit of beyond Bitcoin. I'm glad everything is set up. And of course, I've met you quite a few. We've hung out before. It'll be great to hang out with you again. Wait, when I said we hung out in Calgary, was there another time? Why does it feel like there was another time? No, maybe that was the only time. Maybe that was the only time.
Well, you were at Bitcoin 2019, weren't you?
No. So the only time it just feels because I've seen you. You've been on my show. I mean, I think Benny's been on my show more than anybody here. It feels like I guess I'm transferring some meeting of like hang out with Ken Bozak to hang out with you because I met Ken in person more than I met you in person. Anyway, okay. I know people don't want to hear about that. Do you guys, other panel members, do you have comments on government overreach?
Oh, it's insane here. I'm in British Columbia, and they're trying to restrict people from traveling within these 3 subdivided regions. There are signs on the highway every so often, pretty regularly, saying, don't travel, recreational travel not allowed. They're setting up road checks for people within British Columbia. I was worried because I was actually in Kamloops. There was supposed to be a road check where I had to drive through. Luckily, it wasn't there. Maybe it was because it was a weekday. Yeah, it's scary.
I want to point out to BTC Sessions here that's Michael Shapiro and Phil Gibson is our other guest. Michael Shapiro here, and you might know them from ClubHouse. I want your take on ClubHouse, by the way, BTC Benny. But Michael here he took his bike. He took his bike across the border. He's in Canada right now because he took a bike from the United States. So I'm so impressed. I just was raving about it beforehand. So I want to inform you of that. But what is your take, BTC Sessions, on the glory or anti-glory of ClubHouse?
I mean, I enjoy the conversation. I think eventually everybody kind of gets the ClubHouse fatigue after a while, but it is nice to, if I'm feeling the itch, just like pop open an app and there's always like some Bitcoiners hanging out and having a conversation. Yeah, I part of me thinks back to when I first kind of got into Bitcoin and thinking like, man, if this kind of a resource was available at the time to be able to just pop into a room and ask some pretty knowledgeable people about this kind of stuff, it would be fantastic. But yeah, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword because I have yet to pop my head into some of the other trashy rooms where they're pumping NFTs and other, altcoins and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure some of those would just be the antithesis of the rooms that I've been hanging out in. So I don't know. It's a bit of a time vampire, that's for sure. But I do enjoy the conversation there.
Time vampire. Yeah, be careful of those dudes. And that's what I kind of saw it as. I don't want to hang out too much there because of that. It can be a time vampire. Very, very good word there. Pound that like button. And I just forgot what the heck I was going to darn say that had to deal with all this stuff. But the Bose Flynn says, you're the best, Adam. Shout out to Zach Allen for bringing me to you a year ago. No one like you. Yes, I'm a unique beast. All these dudes are unique beasts. I encourage everyone to be a unique beast. Fitting in is freaking overrated. Speak your mind. Freaking take your bike across the border. I love it, baby. But Zach, you clarified the 4chan thing, and maybe BTC Benny knows about this. 4chan called the dip to the T and how it would happen 8 hours before it did. Now they say doing it again today to 25K. So I don't care, but interesting. Benny, have you heard about this? Now I thought some of that stuff could have been faked. The Bose, by the way, there were screenshots. I thought maybe they could have been faked. Have you heard about this weird 4chan thing that somebody out there has been able to predict manipulation that has been bringing down the market? Or is it all just a coincidence, or is it all just a lie?
I haven't heard that, but I mean, the thing is with anybody saying they predicted the dip after the fact, is you gotta go and look and see if that was their only call, because what some people will do, like some quote unquote TA experts, is they'll go and they'll make multiple calls of different things that could happen, and then afterwards they'll go and delete all of their incorrect ones and then point back to the one that was right and say, look what we did. We nailed it. So you got to be careful, because anybody could have made like 10 different price calls of support levels and then just deleted the rest before anybody noticed, and then drawn attention to how amazing they were afterwards. So I don't know.
Here, I think one thing that has to be pointed out to you with 4chan, and there are a lot of people in the space that want magical answers and want there to be magical predictions and want to know magical insider manipulation news. It doesn't really exist. I mean, you're asking for something that's not there, and there's no big grand. I think people want conspiracies. They're sad when the price drops. It's natural. And they want like a rationale, because they want to know why it happened, and it makes it feel good and warm inside that there was a big conspiracy. And look, these guys found out about it, and now we know. But it's not as simple as that. There are a lot of factors. There are obviously a lot of impulsive people. They sell the news. There have been a lot of people selling the news. There's been a lot of FUD lately. What you all have to realize is that it's all forgotten in the long run. We've had FUD Fridays like this before, and I can't tell you the specific FUD that's happened every Friday in the past. It's just it seems like a big deal when it's going on. It's not a big deal when you take a longer look at it from the future. All right, Roman Q says there were 2 prominent politicians that were censored in Alberta recently. Want to know if BTC Benny thinks that Bitcoin can help Alberta's sovereignty.
I don't know who was censored. I don't know who they're. Maybe Roman, if you can. I do have the chat up. Roman, if you can say who was censored. I mean, in general, I don't really pay attention to politics at that point. I feel like Bitcoin transcends politics and makes a lot of that stuff obsolete. I'm very much in favor of more local governance as opposed to far-reaching, federal governance where people try to govern a large body of people over large swaths of land. I think people are much more in tune with their own local needs as opposed to, I don't know, like Canada's 30-something million people. I don't think that should be governed by a single body for a lot of things. And I think federal overreaches a lot. As he said, 2 politicians were kicked out of the UCP. Which is the United Conservative Party here in Alberta. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on in Alberta right now. People are either mad that there are not enough regulations or mad that there are too many regulations, and there's nobody kind of anywhere down the middle in that. So as soon as the conservative premier here in our province put restrictions in, obviously like half of his party was like revolting against him, and then on the opposite side of things, everybody that was not part of that party or that was on the opposite side of the spectrum was like, what are you doing? You need to shut literally everything down. People should be locked in their homes, all this kind of stuff. So nobody's going to be happy. Now he's saying that 2 politicians were kicked out for being anti-lockdown. The mere act of being anti-lockdown should not have any bearing. It's an opinion. You're an elected politician. If people continue to agree with your views, then continue to elect them, but you shouldn't. I don't know. That seems stupid to me. I don't see how Bitcoin fixes this though, because Bitcoin makes politics obsolete, I suppose, in many ways. So maybe just the bickering in the first place would not have taken place had people just been free to do as they please with their own capital. So I don't know.
I think.
Yeah. Oh yes, please.
Well, I think Bitcoin helps if you want to take like the lobbying approach and, you know, putting politicians' money where their mouth is, and, you know, as Bitcoin moons and their donors give them Bitcoin, that'll definitely influence the decisions they make. And I think I think we all kind of like agree with this to some extent, but we're starting to see jurisdictional arbitrage in the states. My governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, wants to make Bitcoin a mecca for Bitcoin. I mean, Texas a mecca for Bitcoin mining. It's a huge hub for that with all the, you know, reusable energy and grid stuff. And we're seeing that in Florida as well. So, you know, I think this is just another shakeup. Like, this whole Canada story isn't directly tied with Bitcoin, but I don't know, with Bitcoin just kind of like seeping through the cracks of everywhere else, like government wise around the world, I think. I don't know. I just hope like more, I guess, lobbying, it can be a dirty word, but starts to pop up, or people will actually start to like look at Bitcoin and see how they can apply it to their solutions. The mayor of, I can't remember if it was Tennessee or Mississippi, but Mayor Scott, who was on TFTC this past week, just hearing what he's trying to work on. And I know he's his own individual with his own politics and opinions, but you know, going back to what Adam was saying about, you know, not being a status, like, I agree, but to some extent, you know, we're all going to self-govern ourselves in some way, and I think Bitcoin is like the best avenue and tool to kind of get there. So again, like, Bitcoin isn't tied to this whole Canadian like censorship, politicians get them out, whatever, but, you know, people will end up speaking their mind and speaking and voting with like this information that is Bitcoin to get the point across, because it won't have any other choice.
I'm glad you spoke up there, Phil, because I was going to ask you a question. I want to remind everybody, China lies. Just when I was ranting about China before, don't believe a word they say. I mean, it's just that how the people haven't gotten it yet. That most of the stuff that comes out of that official spokespeople, it's just lies. It's just lies. And that people mess up their financial future based on these liars. It's sad, man. It's freaking sad. Buying over crying, people. And that buying over crying, that shout out goes to the dude who was complaining about the sound also. You cry about the sound, I'll buy the freaking Bitcoin. Pound that like button. And so, Phil, I'm going to keep it on you here, because I think everybody knows my answer to this. We are still in a freaking bull run. But there are people that are asking me, Adam, is the bull run over? Oh my God, I'm worried. China. Are we still in a bull run here, Phil?
That's a rhetorical question, right?
It should be, yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think this dip is just another sign of Bitcoin's anti-fragility and how passionate and strong diamond hand actual Bitcoiners are, and new Bitcoiners, right? Because, yeah, maybe Bitcoiners that were old school bought more, but, you know, like a floor is set. So maybe it dips below 30K, but I don't think it's too brash to say that 20K might be a new floor. So it's just going to go up from here. This may sound like conspiratorial, but I think all this FUD is just to shake out the weak hands and give these larger financial players a discount. Because again, people that have smart money or big money, whatever, are seeing that their yields are turning negative and they're not really going to have another choice in the long run. So they're smart with their money. They know what they're doing. And that takes creating FUD in retail and to shake out some weak hands so they can get more Bitcoin. Again, that's a little conspiratorial, but it makes sense to some extent, right? Because markets and the history of markets have been manipulated one way or another. And this manipulation, if you want to call it that, in Bitcoin is really just an exemplification. Is that word? It's a manifestation. Let's go with that word. It's a manifestation of how powerful a true free market mechanism is and how it works and how Bitcoin never turns off ever. And it is just a pure representation of people's incentive and human action and just humans being human and just following their intuition. And if that means people are going to sell and then people are going to buy it right back up, then that's what's going to happen.
You say people are buying it right back up. It's freaking. This is the problem here, that these individuals who are selling, well, they've got herd mentality. I don't like calling them individuals, but these retail people, they're selling it to the corporate interest here, okay, and to this freaking strong hands. But they will be the first people complaining, like, why does Wells Fargo have all this Bitcoin? Well, they're buying it from you right now in 2025 when Wells Fargo's got all this Bitcoin, and you're complaining you sold it to them, you freaks. All right, Michael, are we still in a bull run here?
I think it's more likely that we are still in a bull run. I don't know. Just because I've realized, the S2F model is complete bullshit. And we can see sort of a signal to noise ratio when you're looking at what are the transaction volumes, what's the volume of sell-offs versus the volume of new Bitcoin being minted. So it's 320,000 Bitcoin per year now that'll get mined, compared to in the dip from 57 to 43K over about a week. I looked at the exchange volumes. It was about 550,000 Bitcoin that were moving. And so the S2F model is going to be worse and worse over time, because as those become a small percentage, they become less important. The only way that it would become dominant is if we had a huge number of strong hands. But we don't have that amount of Bitcoin strongly held, so it's still lagging. So it's really not meaningful. So the basis of saying that it's more likely that we're in a bull market, it's the different macro factors that it seems everything is poised to make Bitcoin explode upward, with a huge increase in money supply, but at the same time, I'm looking at how foolish people are being for how long, and all the NFT stuff with people in tech, where I'm looking at what percentage of the people that I thought are smart are still not getting it. It sort of makes me wonder, how long can people remain stupid, especially since there's a lot of people that, if they're still able to live in a house and eat food, maybe they can keep being foolish for a longer amount of time than I would expect. So it's hard for me to really predict the price either way. But I will say I am still bullish. I have some $200,000 December 31st call options.
Oh, now, dude, you said a lot. Best freaking guest in the space I bring you. You're not scared to speak your mind about the S2 stock to flow model, okay? There are a lot of people that worship that thing, okay? I don't put anything on a pedestal, so I'm glad when I can get somebody on there that they can question it. If you're betting the farm based on that thing, guy, don't worship it blindly, question it. I really like that you said that. And the dude who promotes it, I'm sure he's a good guy and everything like that. He seems like a smart guy and everything. But there are so many people that, just bow down to that. Do not pedestal a person, because when you pedestal someone, everybody was pedestaling Elon Musk. Look at the letdown that everybody had. Now, you did say that there's smart people doing stupid things out there. You actually have a tweet, Michael. Who was it that you, is it Balaji? That you was your latest target there? Was that who it was? All right, you were kind of surprised that he said something stupid, dude. He was wearing a freaking mask in his profile for months. Yeah. Okay, but so don't be too surprised about irrational things coming from that dude's mouth.
Yeah. The other thing about S2F though is people are going to find there's going to be a day where S2F looks extremely bearish. So it's a parabolic on a log chart, so it's exponential. The problem is Bitcoin is not parabolic or exponential. It's actually faster than that. Bitcoin it's literally hyperbolic. Hyperbolic growth is what we are going to see. It's a finite time singularity. So the simplest equation would be 1 over x. Look at what that chart looks like. It goes to infinity in a finite amount of time, and in nominal terms, that is what will happen to the price, except it's faster than that, because it's like n over x, where n is the inflow and x is the amount of weakly held Bitcoin. You can sort of divide Bitcoin up into strongly and weakly held, and then there's whatever interactive parameters that would make it spiral out of control. And so when people see these dips, it's a small amount of weak hands that cause this large price movement. And similarly, you don't need much of a shift to cause a huge spike. A lot of people say, oh, you know, it's $1 trillion market cap and that's great for Bitcoin. But in the big scheme of things, that is small compared to all these other things. And there's so much growth that needs to happen. And it can only get so many trillions so quickly. But all you're doing is dividing by something that gets closer and closer to zero. This isn't like we're just building blast furnaces and, you know, you can only build them up so quickly. You can divide by zero and then suddenly you're at infinity. So it's more of a question of how many Bitcoin are strongly held versus weakly held. And I'd say it's the money coming in is more about how it shifts that parameter than the money itself. So we really don't need institutions. We don't need any particular people coming into Bitcoin. We just need more of the people that understand Bitcoin holding it.
Whoa, hyperbolic Trav there. That's what I hear that word, hyperbolic. So you're bullish, man. This is great. This is good. I want to say you jogged my memory. I was going to talk about, you said the word NFT, and I was about to say during this FUD 2 weeks that we've had, I bet there are a lot of people that bought NFTs. They are greatly regretting it now. My Lord, I mean, are some of those things worthless now? How people could have wasted their... Anyway, BTC Benny, your take on stock to flow or anything that was just said?
I mean, I think what was just said is totally fair. Like I think so far it's held up okay, but at the same time, I don't expect it to follow it exactly. And as it was alluded to, if it breaks, it's probably going to break to the upside, right? So, you know, it's only meant to be moderately useful within an order of magnitude, I suppose. But I'm not married to it either way. So I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent to stock to flow, to be honest. Are we still in a bear market or in a bull market? Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're going through the usual rounds of, you know, everything pumps for a while, then they pile on the FUD, and then it pumps a bit more, and then they pile on the FUD, and then it pumps a bit. I think we're going to see a bunch of that this year. I think it's seeming so similar to 2017. And I think the reason for that is because with 2017, we got a bunch of new people that didn't know what the hell was going on. They gradually figured it out over the course of the year, as some of them got totally wrecked and some of them did not. And then obviously we went into a bear market as people left, and some stuck around. Well, hey, we've got the same thing happening, just on a larger scale this time around. More people are coming in. There's more on-ramps. There's more people paying attention. There's a different class of people paying attention, but they've got to learn all the same lessons and make all the same mistakes. So, yeah, are we still in a bull market? I think so. I think we've got a ways to go. And then I think we're going to see a somewhat similar cycle, maybe a little bit more muted because more people will be thinking longer term, but we'll see.
Yep, I agree with what you just said. It's 2017 all over again, but 2018 followed 2017. So I don't think it can be kept up in 2022. Maybe it'll be a little bit more muted, as you said, the downturn. But have a freaking strong hand. Think 4 years at a time, people. Johnny NY says, I love your new show, no schedule, free flowing it. Yeah, man, I love this free flowing. You don't know who's going to drop in. It's easier on me setting up the show the way I'm doing it now. And you know, everyone saw last week I was very frustrated with how things had been. And so again, I thank the people that helped me out with the administrative side of things. We're at the end of the show here. I do want to read a Fraxalis said, America is not a stable country right now. It's stupid to keep wealth in US dollar until we get our S together. You know, even if we get our S together, it's not good to keep your money, your savings in USD, because even if there's a stable leader in charge, he's going to still print it to oblivion. But I got to say one thing. It's worse to keep your money in Canadian dollars than American dollars. They're more whacked than we are. Okay, clearly. I mean, you know, from what we've their insane rules that they have out there with this. They're still locked. They're living in this fantasy lockdown world out there. I can't even believe it. And I can't even believe the Blue Jays had to play in freaking Buffalo. It's so, and that the NHL's got to worry about where the playoffs are going to. It's insane. It creeps into every aspect of life.
The lockdowns are bad in two ways. So a lot of people just respond to, okay, this government overreach is absolutely insane, but they're wrong twice in two big ways. So one is how excessive and forceful they are, but the other is the things they are doing are also the wrong things. Still here in Canada, you can see the hand sanitizer. It's complete bullshit. There is no fomite risk. This is something that if you look into, I looked into this because I was working on an air filter sort of a while ago and trying to build stuff for this. This pattern repeats every time there's this sort of pandemic. The major institutions will say it's not airborne whatsoever. And then the scientists that study the aerosolization, which is a physics-based phenomenon, it's not sort of part of the traditional virology, getting things that are legible, feeding that into your pharmaceutical industrial complex. So people that actually model the physics of this will say, hey, you're full of shit. And then they'll say, no, wait, this is how it is. And then over time they'll say, okay, fine. It's slightly airborne. And then they'll say, no, it's more airborne than that. And, over a year or two, then they finally say, okay, it's as airborne as you were saying from the get-go. And that's the same thing with COVID. They have tweets, you can look at the WHO, that they said, fact check, it is not airborne at all. And so they target the completely wrong modalities. It is airborne, it's from confined spaces. So all this stuff with hand sanitizer, wiping down surfaces, it's hygiene theater. So it's not just that it's overreaching and incompetent. So even in the situation where there were, let's say, a virus that's far more dangerous, they'd still be doing the wrong things.
Yeah, the government is completely incompetent. If the government never touched this thing, it would have resolved itself on its freaking own, okay? People could, the lies and the inefficiencies that are coming from the so-called solutions, it totally makes everything worse. They're the ones that say trust the science. They don't even know science if smack them in the freaking face. But hey, I'm glad to see you outside and living your life. You're clearly a healthy dude, and I wish more people just got out there and were living lives. Okay, so we're at the end, and that's what Florida will be all about, and that's what all the people that are coming to Miami are going to freaking live the Vida Loca, baby. Pound that like button. Okay, let's get our conclusionary remarks from everybody. Promote what you're going to promote. Phil, my musician buddy, we got a show coming up that's going to debut soon. All three of these dudes are linked to below, by the way, so please follow them on Twitter. Phil, take it away. Any conclusionary thoughts, any stories you want to share that are Bitcoin related, life related that we didn't mention? The floor is yours.
Stories, not that I could think of. I think a lot of great stories are going to be made in Miami, so I'm really looking forward to that. Other than that, I'm very stoked to be on the show, Adam, and I'm stoked to drop our episode. Should be Monday, where we get into a lot of great stuff. But yeah, always good to talk about this stuff and to remember that FUD is FUD. And welcome to Bitcoin. Get used to it and just stack your sats and hodl, and you'll have a sound mind because you got sound money on your side at all times. So if you want to follow me in what I'm working on, my name is Phil Gibson. I got a podcast called A Boy Named Sue, like the Johnny Cash song, except Sue is spelled P-S-E-U because, do the math. You can figure it out. Pseudonymous, whatever. And before this whole Bitcoin thing, I was first and foremost a musician, which I still am. And I wrote a song called End the Fed. Well, it's really entitled ETF in all caps, periods after each letter, whatever. Because, everyone was like hyping over a Bitcoin ETF for years. But even that is kind of like, on the wayside, like kind of meh. So if we get one, that's nice. But, whatever. Price is going to go up either way. But after the crash last March, I was learning about Bitcoin and macro and just trying to wrap my head around how all this stuff kind of works. And my End the Fed song was just 3.5 minute rock and roll encapsulation of my thoughts and that. And my goal was just to make a economic earworm that hopefully got stuck in people's heads, that was catchy enough. And if they were curious enough to learn what the words of that song were, then maybe they could read them, dive more into it, and just, learn Bitcoin. Because trying to get people onto Bitcoin is not the easiest thing, but if you can demonstrate that in a fun way, just on the periphery, and it gets stuck in their head, then that might work. So that song is just by me, Mr. Sue, mr.pseu. So that's streaming everywhere that you stream music. The music videos I actually pinned on my Twitter, which I did with Richard James, who made the sound Hard Money Film, hardmoneyfilm.com. Great editing. Bitco Yanowski did the fabulous artwork for it. It's literally like an orange Bitcoin comet that's flying into the Federal Reserve. So, and the Fed. There you go. And yeah, rock and roll and hodl Bitcoin. Keep stacking.
Rock and roll and Bitcoin. He's the rock star of Bitcoin. Check him out. Definitely. Thanks for coming on the show today. Excellent. All right, Michael, you made your debut on the show also today. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to promote?
I'll just say that, when I got into Bitcoin, it was through sort of steel manning the existing system. I made some things that were really useful for the world, and I tried to see, does venture capital, does finance work? And I found it doesn't work. And so that led me to Bitcoin. And over the years, the past few years since getting into Bitcoin, I've been able to see other situations where the world doesn't work. And what I've realized is it's a bit like the news, where, if we see a news article and something we're familiar with, it's easy to see they're full of shit, but then sometimes assume that maybe the other things seem reasonable and we don't know. So we take their word for it. And what I'd like to emphasize is that the world is broken in more ways than we can imagine, even when we already think it is thoroughly broken from A to Z. And so when people are still underestimating just how much Bitcoin fixes everything, and I'm probably underestimating it too. We have no idea how good it's going to get and how many things are going to be fixed through Bitcoin.
Ooh, that's a good conclusion right there. I like it. The future is bright, and we don't know what Bitcoin is going to exactly bring to this world, and the innovations that we're going to be playing around with in 10 years with it. Those of you watching this 10 years in the future, you know the answer, but we don't know it yet, and you're probably really rich if you're watching this in the future. All right, Benny, we leave it with you, baby. Tell us what you're doing. Any news? Yeah. The floor is yours. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here as always. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, love the conversation. I think what I'll just kind of give for our audience to take away is, Elon Musk has been the source of a lot of FUD as of lately. He responded to one of my tweets last night, and I basically had to turn off my phone. But I think the way that he's looking at Bitcoin is fundamentally broken. He doesn't understand how Bitcoin is trying to maintain decentralization. And so if I could point you to a few resources to ensure that you continue to use Bitcoin in a decentralized way, there's a good book that is relatively recent called The Block Size War or Wars on Amazon. And it's all about the fight that was fought in 2017 to maintain Bitcoin's decentralization. So check that out. And then outside of that, the important things in using Bitcoin are running a node is very helpful in ensuring that you're using what you personally believe to be Bitcoin. So I did a tutorial on how to run an Umbrel node. So if you want to check that out, very easy. And then in terms of the environmental FUD, a lot of Elon's premise is basing the amount of energy consumed per transaction, which doesn't make sense. There is no correlation between amount of energy consumed and number of transactions put through on Bitcoin. And furthermore, when you tag on a second layer like Lightning Network, each transaction can actually represent settlement of millions of transactions per second. So if you're interested in that, start diving into Lightning Network, which I did also drop a tutorial for how to set up a full routing Lightning node if you feel so inclined. Otherwise, you can use other solutions like Breeze and Phoenix. But there's so many things that people don't understand and that all of this FUD is based on. They have shaky foundations for all of their arguments, and you can dispel it by running a node and playing with Lightning. That's it. That was my rant.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because in the notes I said I got to bring up to Benny his conversation with Elon. In an article here, it says Elon Musk Lightning can solve Bitcoin scaling problem. It's from Decrypt. It shows your tweet to him. It was about Lightning Network. Do you have anything else to say about, like, I mean, people read the article. It's linked to below, and that was pretty crazy that he responded to you. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you have any other Lightning related stuff to say? Because people like to hear you talk about Lightning. It answers Elon's question clearly. And don't put him on a pedestal, obviously.
Like, his whole premise was flawed, right? He's trying to say, like, let's shove everything base layer, but it makes it prohibitively expensive and difficult for people to run a node and verify themselves, right? The amount of bandwidth required for that would be incredibly difficult to maintain. Not only, I mean, assuming that the entire world was using Bitcoin as a base layer for their transactions for everything. So it's just completely infeasible. But his premise on amount of energy per transaction, totally broken, doesn't make sense. And he also seems to not realize the implications of even if it was decided and technically possible that we could switch to that, the implications of changing the base layer protocol, of changing the underlying rules, ruins the entire promise that it's an immutable protocol. You know, let Ethereum do regular hard forks and change the very foundation that they're based upon. Let them do that. That's not what Bitcoin is for. We're for hard promises and hard money, and that's why we're here.
And I think, and the thing about the Dogecoin is maybe he wants to control. I mean, I don't want to put thoughts into his. Dogecoin might not be immutable if he takes it over. Okay, maybe he likes that aspect of it. But again, Ethereum is clearly not immutable. So if he's interested, and I've warned people, he might pump Ethereum soon. So get ready for that FUD next week, people. For the people who worship Elon. All right, BTC Benny, I'm glad you brought up this Lightning stuff here.
Adam, also, I DM'd you a link that you might want to include about Tesla for people that sort of want to go down the rabbit hole of what's behind all this. One idea from a couple years ago, actually, is that Tesla is essentially money laundering for the CCP. That they have these layers of LLCs in the US that you can't tie back to them. They pump up the price of Tesla, and then Tesla buys things in China. And so there's a blog post explaining all of that sort of predicted the rise of Tesla in terms of stock, just because they were doing all these shenanigans.
Sounds a lot like how our GDP works.
Well, I'm right this second. I am adding that. It says China. It's like the last link underneath the show. I'll add it in a second by the time we end the show here. But hey, I haven't read the article, so I'm not endorsing it yet. But Michael is an awesome guest, and hey, he wants you guys to read something. So read. Reading is fundamental. I think there used to be some advertisement on TV. I don't watch TV anymore. All right, dudes. Goodbye, my elite friends. You've been all great today. It's been a special new format show. I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the DisruptMeister. Thank you, guest you. It was a really good combination today. A lot of unexpected stuff came up. Everybody played at 2x. If you haven't watched the whole thing yet, it will save you time. I am Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the DisruptMeister. Shabbat Shalom, as we say. And yes, again, we remember our good friend Dan, who was a great Bitcoiner. The show was dedicated to him. And life is short, people, so take full advantage of it. And it's pathetic when the government tries to lock people in their houses to take away, or only taking away a year of your life. No, a year, that's a tremendous part of your freaking life. There's nothing, only a year is not a legitimate saying. We'll end it with that. It's not only a year. Only a second is not only a second. Every little piece counts, and the government doesn't own a piece of it. You own it all. Thank you, everybody. See you later. Strong hand. All right. Let's get out of here.